Well, it is a pleasure being here. You cannot imagine. And I just want to share with you a little bit about me. When I was 11 years old, and I grew up in Maryland, in Tacoma Park, Maryland, in America, and that was, I guess, a time when the Cold War was going on. And I was a very sensitive little girl, and I was so afraid of the bomb and Russia that one day we went to school, and I was in 6th grade, and we were going to watch a show. And the show I thought was going to be all about agriculture, growing corn in Iowa. We really was going to be fun. But what came on was a screen, and the lights went down. It was 16 millimeter. We were all excited. And suddenly we heard 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, all the way down to 0. And then there was this incredible atom bomb that went off. And after that, it just panned absolute annihilation. Mothers crying for their babies, blood strewn all over them. Fathers nowhere to be found. Just shambles, everything. And it said, this is what will happen if there's an enemy attack. And my body started to shake. And I didn't know what was happening, because I thought any minute now we were going to have a war, that we were going to have something that would kill me and my family, and I would never live to kiss a boy. And that was big. And now I thought, I went to my teacher, and I was shaking, and I said, oh, I'm going home for lunch now. She said, well, Goldie, you never go home for lunch. I said, well, no, my mom really wants me to come home for lunch right now, and I really have to go home for lunch. And I was having a panic attack. I was 11 years old. I ran home, I called my mom. She ran home from the store in her skirt and her high heels. And she said, what happened? I said, Mom, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die because the atom bomb is gonna kill us and Russia's gonna kill us. And she said, who told you that? My teacher, and I saw this movie. And so she called the Department of Education. And she said, excuse my French, she said, what the hell are you teaching our children? That they're gonna get under a desk? That the Russia is gonna bomb us? Do you understand their minds cannot absorb this? That they are too young to understand what's going on? You're creating anxiety in our children. She explained to me why that wouldn't happen. It made sense to me, but every day and every time we had a woo, I wouldn't go to school up until high school, because it made me so frightened. And that was my system that had no rhyme, no reason, nothing. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I had this lack of cognition. It was all automatic. So just as an example, at 11 years old, also, people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, happy. And they said, oh, no. What do you want to be when you grow up? I said, happy. I was kind of excited because they looked so confused. It was sort of like I said something smart or stupid. They didn't ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up. Then I would say, oh, I want to be a dancer. I want to be an actress. I want to perform. But who I wanted to be in myself was a happy person. So it was an intention throughout my life. And then, skip too many years later, I am now dancing in a line, I'm in a television show, I'm a professional dancer, it's how I'm making my money. And suddenly an agent comes up to me and says, do you have an agent? And I said, no. He said, well, would you meet me? I'm with William Morris Talent Agency, and I have a feeling, and I'd just like to meet you. And I went, yeah, right. So I went back to my dancing, and sure enough, he calls me after the show is over. It was a TV show. "Oh, Miss Hawn, you're home. You're supposed to be here meeting Mr. Art Simon." Oh, I jumped in my car. It didn't have much of a floor. On my car, my right-hand door opened up. Every time I turned the corner, I had to pull the door shut. Let's just say I didn't have much money, and I didn't have much of a car. But I did have surround vision. I could see the floor when I was driving. I could see the side. So I was still quite happy. I suddenly then was pulled out of the chorus, given an audition, got the audition, didn't think I was going to get the part, and I get a call, and it said, "Goldie, you got the part." I said, "But I thought I was too young for this character." No, they wrote a part in for you." Now, I was supposed to be happy. That was supposed to be what I wanted to do, but it wasn't. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to go home back to Maryland where I grew up. I wanted to have a house with a white picket fence. I wanted a family. I wanted my children. I wanted to be near my mom and my dad. I didn't want to be a star. And it scared me. But what happened, which was interesting, is that I became anxious. I wasn't happy like everyone was meeting me going, "Oh, Goldie, isn't this great? We're so happy for you." Why wasn't I happy? I was having panic attacks. I was unable to go into public. I was having something was going on, and I was 21 years old. So what I did was I went to a psychologist because I had to find out where my smile went. What happened to that tickle inside me? What happened to that little girl that said, "I want to be able to be happy for all of my life"? But instead, I lost my smile. That was really, really scary. So I saw a doctor, and it took me about a year to really begin to uncover and understand more about me. So I went to the University of Me. I looked into every window that was closed, every door I was afraid to open. I excavated every channel of my interior and of my mind. And at that time, it was the 70s, and I began to meditate. I thought, let me try this. Quieting my mind, I was a studier of religions. I've always been interested in the more spiritual aspect of all religion. And I then went to learn to meditate. And I remember that it was the most extraordinary time I can have, other than dancing and feeling free and beautiful and in my power. I felt intrinsically in my power when I closed my eyes. I followed my breath. I could hear my heartbeat for the first time in a long time. And I felt me. I could get that. And meditation became a big part of my life. And as time went on, I became interested in other things. I became interested in children's well-being. I adopted children around the world. I gave my money to children's organizations. And then when 9/11 happened, my mind changed. My heart changed. Not just for Americans, but for everyone on this planet Earth. And I sat for a week in my meditation room, praying for an answer, and remembering that my mission was to be happy, remembering that 2 years hence, I was doing a documentary on happiness. That was 18 years ago. People looked at me like I had 8 heads. What? A documentary on happiness. Well, that sounds really interesting. What does that mean? Well, there I am sitting there going, please give me an answer. And what came to me was, Goldie, if you want happiness to permeate not only your life, your children's life, but the children of the world, what can you do? I have studied meditation. I have studied all the aspects of our research of meditation, neurobiology. I know just enough not to be dangerous. And I looked at all the research being done and I thought, wait a minute, stop. What says that we can't put all of these different aspects, whether it's gratitude, empathy building, understanding meditation, mindfulness, why can't we put that into a curriculum that in the first and foremost teaches us about the brain? We ask children to go to school and learn. They know what it is to do a muscle. They don't understand what's going on here at all. And I looked at that and said, how dare us as grown-ups, as teachers, as educational administrators, know that we are asking our teachers to teach our children to pay attention when they don't even know the tool that's sitting on their heads, that are sitting on their necks, that are sitting on their shoulders, that are sitting on the neck. They don't know. So when we look at that and you think, well, okay, argue with that one. I thought, okay, I'm a producer. I produced movies. I'm going to produce the best movie, the best show, the best script that I can possibly produce for children. So I brought in neuroscientists. I brought in teachers. I brought in positive psychology. I brought in practitioners. And I said, let's create a holistic program, a foundational program, not one that just focuses on empathy, not one that just focuses on kindness, not one that just focuses on mindfulness, but one that basically starts from the beginning, which is the human brain. Every child has one, and everything at the end of the day starts and finishes with our neurobiology. So we created this program, brought it. I started in Vancouver, BC. It was researched at the University of British Columbia. And one of the things that because the children, it was an amazing result. But one thing that our children really did was 83% of our children were able to make themselves happier. Make themselves happier. Because not giving them something that's going to give them the answer, but giving them the experience and the tools that will allow them to be in the driver's seat. Our children are helpless. Their brains are just growing. We have to understand that this is early education, which is where we need to be, to look at how we're going to build healthy, stable brains, healthy mental states, but to be able to give these children the opportunity to take control, that they're in the driver's seat. So when we do everything that we do in our program, which is wrapped around all of our curriculum, by the way, they know what's going on in their brain. So when we're all upset and crazy and everything's upset and they're really scared or they're fearful or they've come from a broken home or they're sad or they're angry, a lot of them are angry. Fear turns into anger. They now know what's going on in their limbic system. Their amygdala, which we call the barking dog, is overactive. They have to calm that down, or they're not going to be able to think. They won't be able to remember. They won't be able to create. They won't be able to actually store memory. They'll make good decisions and analyze better. Therefore, they know, breathe, focus, mindful breathing, calm down that barking dog. Guess what lights up? The executive function, the prefrontal cortex. We call it the wise old owl. And boy, is the wise old owl happy when you're able to calm that down. Then they know what they can do. They can think. They can organize their thoughts better. They can make better decisions. One little boy said, "Oh, I use Mind Up. One of my friends pushed me on the playground. He was my best friend." He said, "But I went away and I did my mindful breathing," he said, "and I realized that if I hit him back he wouldn't be my best friend anymore. He was 9 years old and he had that kind of critical thinking. This is what we want to be able to give our children. Experiential. Kindness, acts of kindness, experiential. We don't have to teach acts of kindness, they experience it. Gratitude journals every other day. They don't have to be grateful for any big thing. What about that amazing hamburger you had the other day? And we find that our children that don't want to do gratitude is fine. But what's interesting is that they think about it and they come back the next day normally and they go, I know what I'm grateful for. So it gets them thinking. What we're doing is we're building brains in a healthy fashion. We have mitigated tremendous amount of aggression on the playground, bullying. Our schools now, our Mind Up schools, are working in teams. We are working together in groups. There's more empathy in our classroom than has ever been seen before. You know, children come in, they're sad. Some of them are hurt. We call it silent distress. Some of our children are pressured by their parents. Some of our children don't have enough to eat. Some of our children are being bullied. They don't want to go to school. These are the things that we have to look at and say, does our child's health, mental health, matter more or less than our academia? Because a happy child, an optimistic child, is a child who can learn. It opens the pathways of learning. It makes it okay to make a mistake. What are we asking of our little ones? Are we asking too much? I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen a change in schools and in classrooms, done in fidelity, how this changes our classroom. Our children go home and they teach their parents, and they've given them the opportunity to say, Mom, I think I need to take a brain break, because they feel they're overwhelmed. Self-awareness at 7, 8 years old? Yes. They become self-aware. And they become aware of others. Or a child says, Dad, why are you so mad? We were building this shed all day and it fell apart. But don't use all those bad words. He said, it's just a shed. How about that value system? It's more important to be happy than fret over something that didn't work. So we're building resilience. We're not giving kids a fish, we're giving them a fishing rod. Foundational. This is a must in every classroom in the world. And when I was sitting in my meditation room, I asked God, can you please bring this program all over the world? I knew it was a big ask, but I love children so much because they are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, the parents of tomorrow. And if we don't build and focus on their well-being and their health and their mental stability leading to their physical health, we're not doing our job as the adults of today.